Happy Monday morning, everybody. It's been a very upsetting 2 days with the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Been laying a little quiet, didn't feel like talking, but the coast is clear now and the show must go on. Mark the Kid Martin out of Batesville, Arkansas. I think everybody knows by now that Mark Martin is one of my closest friends ever. I think Mark will say that to you. And Mark had a really good quote on X on this Monday morning. He said, it is very hard to run 25th. It's horrible. It's exhausting. And he said it's much easier to run in the top 10. And as old DW say, let me explain. Let me explain this to you. And I said, Mark, and then of course Rick Mast responded. He said, you're 100% right, Mark Martin. So I thought it would be something fun to explain to all of you. Why is it so hard, so exhausting to run 25th? And this is the bottom line. There's no debate and there's no truth, because Mark Martin said it, Rick Mast said it, and now I'm going to explain it in detail. I responded, it sure is, Mark Martin. I ran 25th all the time in the NASCAR Cup Series. I was in lesser cars, and I admit it, and I don't blame anybody on it. But the cars that even Jeff Gordon, even Mark Martin said to me, Herman, what's it feel like to get in the Pennzoil #1 car? Hey, Herman, what's it like to get in the Texaco Haviland car? And I was always called the super sub. I didn't mind it, but what was I going to do, right? So whenever Ernie Irvin got hurt, they hired me to get in the Texaco Haviland car. When Steve Park got hurt, I got in the Pennzoil car. And one thing that really helped save my life was that every time I got in those cars, I hauled ass. So everybody in the sport said, well, that Kenny Wallace has got ability, but I never had the ability to get in a good car forever. But I was that next best choice. I'm good with that. It hasn't bothered me much. But you know what? They say God only gives you what you can handle. Well, I was able to handle it. So when I got in that Texaco Haviland car, right, I got in it and immediately started dead last at the Southern 500 with minimal practice. Steve Park got hurt on Saturday in the Xfinity race. And while I was in my number 48 Gould's pump car in that Xfinity race, they said, Kenny Wallace, will you please drive the Pennzoil car on Sunday? And I'm in the race, right? The caution come out, and they're like, Kenny Wallace, will you please drive the Pennzoil car tomorrow in the Cup race here at Darlington? Absolutely. So there was like a 1 hour, what we used to call happy hour back then. I got in the car and I drove it, and they said, well, what do you need? What do you think? I said, my God, this has got to be the greatest handling NASCAR Cup car I've ever drove in my life. And you say, well, what was the difference? Well, it was really well balanced. It turned when you wanted it to turn. It didn't push and then ass in come around, and it just drove beautifully. So fast forward to that next day. They made me start dead last for the Southern 500. I started dead last and went all the way to the front, drove past everybody. Right? I'm thinking the same thing, right? Well, drove all the way to the front, even past Dale Jr. I'll never forget, Jr. will respond here. I got into 3 after passing him, and all of a sudden he popped me in the ass a little bit. Later on, I said, now, Junior's in the number 8 Budweiser car. He pops me in the ass, I wiggled. Later on, I said, what was that all about? He goes, I just couldn't believe it. You was hauling ass. Well, he could believe it, but he was like, look at Herman go. So it was a feel-good story at the time. It was one of the first times where C-plus driver gets in an A-plus car and hauls ass. Hold on now, that's not all. That's not all. we go to Rockingham like the next week, or not much later, and or maybe it was backwards. Maybe I got my timing off, but the story's accurate. The dates are maybe here or there. We go to Rockingham. I set quick time in the Pennzoil car and lead the whole damn race. And Joe Nemechek beat me because they had brought him into pits. It's called short pitting. They brought him in the pits, gave him new tires. He got out and made quicker laps, and then I got pitted later. And I was running down at the end of the race, but that was it. I run second. So when Mark Martin says it's hard to run 25th, what he means by that is when you're driving a car that's no good, it's exhausting, and you're back there and you're around all the other bad cars. So all of you are about ready to wreck. It's horrible. You get calluses on your hands. Your ass is hurting because it's so tight. So when you drive a bad car, you're back there with all the other bad cars. That's why it's so hard. But boy, I'm the king at that. And all right, everybody, just thought that you might want to know what Mark's talking about and why. So, all right.